All right, guys, we'll get started. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. All right. Hopefully you guys either watched the video or you came and joined yesterday. We're looking at volume, and hopefully you guys have seen now that volume is simply the number of cubic units that it takes to fill a container. We know that we find volume using the base area, and we multiply that base area times the height. And one of the things that I tried to get the kids to understand yesterday is to see those two separate pieces. To see the base area and to see the height, and then you're just adding those two parts together. All right? So what problems gave you guys the most difficulty? Where do you want to start?
I was confused as 5 through 8 because I got the first 4, and then I could 5 was the most difficult out of it, like the last 4.
Okay, it's funny because about almost a little less than half of the kids sent in their work already, and I got to see that most of the students had problems 1 through 4 done correctly. Problems 5 and 6 gave students some trouble. Problems 7 and 8 gave students more trouble. So we'll start.
I think I got the right answer. It's entirely
Okay, well we'll take a. Okay, let's see. So let's go up and see if 13.5 is correct, and 13.5 is not correct. All right, so let's take a look at how we do it. All right, now when we start problems like this, I always like to start off with separating the figures into two parts. So we'll call this figure 1, and we'll call this figure 2, and both figures are rectangular prisms. All right, and we want to find the volume of the first figure, and that volume is going to be equal to the base area times the height. So volume 1, when we find the base area, it's going to be the length times the width, right? And that's what I kind of highlighted there in blue. Now, the length times the width is going to be this segment of 4 times that segment of 2. So that's going to be 4 times 2. But then we need the height, right? And the height is this distance here, right? And that's going to be the 0.5. So for volume 1, when we multiply it, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 0.5 is going to be 4. And the units are going to be cubic feet for volume number 1. Volume 2 is, once again, a rectangular prism. So we're going to use the base area times the height. All right. So for volume 2, though, the base area, the length is this red segment here, and the width is going to be that red segment there. So it's going to be 6 by 2 to find the base area. Right? It's going to be the length and width. So 6 by 2, and then the height's going to be, right, that segment here, and that segment is going to be, what, 1 foot. So 6 times 2 is going to be, what do we have, right? Because that's going to be 6 times 2, so that's going to be 12. So volume 2 is going to be 12 cubic feet. And then to find the total volume, we're just adding those two together. So usually I like for you guys to write something like this, right? The total volume is going to be equal to volume 1 plus volume 2. So that's going to be 4 plus 12, and that's going to be 16. Sloppy 12. It's going to be 16, and those are cubic feet for problem number 5. All right? Any other questions with that? Anything you guys didn't understand? Okay. And you just want to see the two rectangular prisms. And as long as you see the two rectangular prisms, it's not too hard, right? And we just have to add them together at the end. All right? You guys want to go to problem 6? Okay, let's go to problem 6. Now, once again, we're talking about volume, and it's the volume of a triangular prism. And anytime we find volume, we still use the base area times the height. But because it's a triangular prism, that base area is going to be a little bit different, right? To find the base of or the area of a triangle, we use 1/2 base times height, right? So the base area is that 1/2 base times height, but then we have to multiply by, I'm going to change colors here, right? We have to still multiply by this h, right? And that h is the height of the prism, right? Here's the h that's in red, right? That red h is the height of the prism, all right? So volume's going to be equal to 1/2. Now we need the base and the height of the triangle. All right, base and the height of the triangle, we look for the right angle symbol. That right angle symbol tells us the base and the height of the triangle, because the base and the height are the two segments that form the right angle. So those two segments are 5 and 13. So it's going to be 1/2 times 5 times 13. And then that's the area of the triangular base. But we then have to multiply that by the height of the prism. And the height of the prism is also 13. So to find the total volume, we have to multiply 1/2 times 5 times 13 times 13, and that's going to be 422.5, and the units are cubic centimeters. All right? Now, one of the things that I tell the kids, and it's kind of cheating, but I still like to say it, is that if you notice, you have 3 measurements here, and the volume is the product of these 3 measurements, but then we take half of it. That's going to work almost all of the time, but not all of the time, all right? So I'm going to skip now to problem 8, because I want you guys to see the difference between problem 6 and problem 8. Notice problem 6, you're given 3 measurements here, all right? That makes the problem a lot easier. It's really hard to mess it up. If we go to problem 8, we have a triangular prism, but now we have 4 measurements. And one of the things that you guys are going to have to learn as the student is that one of these measurements is a distractor, right? And that's what makes problem 8 a little bit tougher. One of the numbers is a distractor, and we just have to learn to recognize which number we don't need. One of those numbers we don't use at all, in the problem, okay? That makes it a little tougher. So let's do problem 8, and then we'll go back to 7. Volume's still going to be the base area times the height. Your base area is still a triangle, so it's 1/2 base times height, and then we have, right, this other h here, which is the height of the prism. Now, one of the things that students have to learn to recognize is that the height of the prism, we have to measure the height as the prism sits on its base. Well, the height of the prism as it sits on its base is going to be 7 centimeters. That's going to be our h, the height of the prism. The other h is the base and the height of the triangle. All right, so let's start with that. 1/2, the base of the triangle and the height of the triangle, we find by locating the right angle symbol, right? That right angle symbol is always key when we're finding, any kind of measurement of a triangle. So that right angle symbol tells me it's the 4 and the 3 are the 2 measurements that I'm going to use, right? The 4 times the 3 are the 2 measurements that I'm going to use. And then we have to multiply that by the height, which is going to be 7. So can someone tell me what number is the distractor in that problem, right? Which one?
5.
The 5 was the distractor. Correct. The 5 had nothing to do with the problem. But it's, that's the type of problem that, I like to give on a quiz or a test, because now the kids are forced to recognize, right, they're forced to recognize which numbers are the numbers that are needed to solve the problem. All right. So that's, that makes that problem a bit tougher than problem 6. They look similar, but the difference is, right, that one extra number. All right. So then if we multiply those numbers, we get 42, correct. Right. That's going to be 42 cubic centimeters for the volume. All right. We'll go back and we'll do 7, because 7 was also, 7 was a tough problem as well. All right, so we'll go back and do 7, and then if you guys have any other questions on anything else, right, we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so let's jump back and do 7. Now, problem 7, I debated whether I was going to give you guys this or not on the first day, because it's a tougher problem, and it's tougher because we have to recognize the base area here is a trapezoid, right? This is the base. I'm going to trace it in red here. That's the base area, right? Remember, we name a prism by the shape of its base, and the base is the two parallel congruent faces, right? So this black area that I'm shading, that's not a base, because the parallel face is not congruent, right? Those two black areas, they're not the same. They're not congruent. So they cannot be bases, all right? These two shapes here, I'm going to shade this in. The two red sides that I'm shading in, those faces cannot be bases because they are not parallel, right? Those faces, if we extended those faces upward, they would intersect. So they cannot be bases either. Your bases have to be the two parallel congruent faces. So that's why your trapezoids here are the bases. So this is a trapezoidal prism, right? So that's the first thing we want to recognize, right? What it is. It's a trapezoidal prism. And those are reasons why it's a trapezoidal prism. So what do we have to do? We use our formula, still the same, base area times the height. But the base area here is a trapezoid. Now, we can use the formula for the area of a trapezoid, or you guys could split the trapezoid into pieces. So I'm going to do this problem a different way, since you guys are here live, right? If we're here live and you don't know anything about the formula for a trapezoid, you would split that trapezoid into the two triangles and the rectangle. Let's start with the rectangle first. What is the area? I'm going to shade it in blue. What's this blue area here? What is the area of the blue part that I just shaded in? Anybody?
11 by 4.
It is not 11 by 4. No.
Oh wait, no, 11 by 3.
Nope. All right.
No.
Now I'm going to. What's the length of that segment?
4.
Correct. What's the length of this segment?
3.
There you go, right? So this area in here, right, 4 times 3, that's going to be 12, right? So that area that I just squared off there, or rectangled off, that's 12. But then we would still have to find the area of the two triangles, right? Now, when we put two triangles together, it makes a rectangle. So let's talk about that. If this segment up here is 4, and this segment down here is 11, what's the difference between 4 and 11?
Well, 4.
What's the difference between?
4 is at the top.
When I say difference, I mean mathematically. What's 11 minus 4?
Look.
Right? What's 11? What's 11 minus 4? 7. Right. So that would mean then that if I want the area of this and this, right, it's actually going to be 7 times the 3 here. All right. So you could find the area of the triangles, which would be 3 times Well, if this whole thing is 11 and this is 4, right, this would be 3 times 3.5, and this would be 3 times 3.5. And what's 3 times 3.5? Let me think about that for a second. 3 times 3 is 9. 9. So what's that? 10.5 and 10.5. So that's like 21, right? So you could find it that way, but let me erase all that, right? Let's learn to use the formula, okay? So the formula for the area of the trapezoid, you guys will remember it. Hopefully it looks like this. 1/2 of the height times B1 plus B2. That's the formula for the area of that entire trapezoid, right? That entire trapezoid. Okay? And then we'd have to multiply by, let me not mess this up, the height of the prism, right? We got to have that other h there. So the volume is going to be equal to 1/2. This is the height of the trapezoid, so that's going to be the 3. Base 1 and base 2. Your bases are your parallel segments of the trapezoid. So that's 4 and 11. And then you have the height of the prism as it sits on its base, right? That's going to be your 3. So the volume is going to be equal to 1/2 times 3 times 4 plus 11 plus 4. That's going to be 90, the sloppy one, 90 cubic meters. Now, I don't think I would put that on a quiz or a test. I'm just telling you guys that. I don't think I would do that because that's a little bit, I don't know, that's a little tougher to do the volume that way. But I still wanted to at least have it in the examples that we do, just so that you guys can see it and be exposed to it. Most importantly, though, I want you to understand base area times height. All right? Any other questions that you guys have from the any other homework problems you want to go over or check your answers or anything you need? Yeah. Anybody else? Leo, you gotta turn your mic up. I can barely hear you. I know my hearing's bad, but sure. Now, go ahead. No, you're good. Yeah, check off. You're good. Right? You just have to. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, Leo. Where are my? Here we go. Okay. If we look at problem 1, Leo, problem one is a rectangular prism. And a rectangular prism, we use the following formula for volume. Length times width times height. Your length, your width, and your height. All right? So it's just substitution for the rectangular prisms. It's just going to be 12 times 10 times 12. And if we multiply, 12 times 10 times 12, we wind up with 1,440. And that's going to be cubic inches. All right, the rectangular prisms are really, really simple, right? It's just, that's okay, Leo. Ask the question. You're right, always ask, right? But it's just going to be length times width times height for the volume of a rectangular prism. So if that's the case, Leo, right, we look here, how would you find the volume for problem number 2? That's it, correct. Volume's going to be length times width times height. Volume's going to be your 9 times your 10 times your 8. So when you multiply 9 times 10 times 8, you wind up with 720 cubic inches, or right, cubic inches, yeah. 720 cubic inches, right? Letter D. Oops. All right. What else you said? Question, let's look at 3. Now, question 3 is a triangular prism, and I don't know if you saw when we were doing, when we did some of the other triangular prisms, all right? Kind of look like this. We start off with the same formula. Volume's going to be base area times the height. So we start off with the same formula. But that base area, because it's a triangle, it's going to be 1/2 base times height to find the base area, and then we have to multiply by the other h. This h here, the red h, that is the height of the prism as it sits on its base. So I know it's a little confusing because there's two h's in that the second line of that formula, but we have to understand, right? Those two h's are, they represent two different things. The first h, the blue h, is the height of the triangle. This red h is the height of the prism as it sits on its base, right? So it's two different things there. So next step, volume's going to be equal to 1/2. We have base and height of the triangle. We try to locate that right angle symbol because those two segments that form the right angle, that's going to tell you the base and the height of the triangle. So that's going to be 10 and 7 that we're going to use there. So it's 1/2 times 10 times 7. And then we multiply by the height of the pyramid as it sits on the base. That's going to be 14. So then when we multiply the 1/2 times 7 times 10 times 14, that's going to be 490. Right, that's 490, and those are cubic centimeters. All right? And then it was funny. I got a message from one of the kids asking about number 4. Mr. Pilata, I don't understand problem 4, and it's so funny because it's actually the easiest problem out of all of them. All right, volume is going to be base area times the height, right? So if you look at that, Leo, what's the base area? What's the capital B? Right, they actually give you the base area. So your volume is going to be equal to it's going to be 45 times the height, which is 13. That's it, right? And when you multiply the 45 times the 13, that's where you get 585, right? 585, and those are cubic millimeters. All right? All right, guys. Anything else I can help you guys with today? All right. All right. Hey, guys, I hope you guys are well. And, tomorrow I'm going to give you some more problems, right? Come back and, whatever questions you have, we'll go over. Okay? All right. Take care, guys. See you soon. Take care.